Welcome back. Here with us on Urban Debate on Mirror Now. At Mumbai Airport this morning, Alliance Air ATR aircraft with 70 passengers on board, including crew members, took off for Bhuj, but left its cowling behind, which is actually the engine cover, something that you can see on your screens right now. It was noticed by the ATC, the people who were there at the runway at that point in time, and DGCA, the regulator, was immediately informed. Thankfully, the plane landed safely in Bhuj without any damage. The passengers were absolutely safe as well. But DGCA has taken the issue quite seriously and has ordered an investigation. Alliance Air has issued a statement as well, saying it has taken a strict note of the incident and a thorough investigation has been initiated. Findings will be shared with regulatory authorities, and the airline has assured that required corrective action will be taken. But how did this really happen? Let's try and find out. We're joined by Captain Amit Singh, founder, Safety Matters Foundation, NGO. Thank you very much, Captain Amit Singh, for joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now. Could you just help us understand, could you simplify it for our viewers? How did this really happen? How could something like this really happen?
A lot of maintenance happens overnight, and this was the first flight of the day. During maintenance, they obviously open the panels, carry out maintenance work, be it daily, minor or major maintenance. There have been a number of instances, especially in the Airbus fleet, more than 45 around the world globally, after which the designer, the Airbus industry, has redesigned the engine cowl, because there has been a tendency that after maintenance activities, the latches were not secured, and during the walk around, the flight crew missed out checking the latches. So in this particular case, from the visuals, if you see the panel, you can see latches jutting out. So obviously the latches were not secured after a maintenance activity. And the second check, which is the flight crew who checks that the latches are secure and the panel is secure, that check could have been missed out by the flight crew for a number of reasons. So this basically points out to the maintenance and the culture which exists. So it may be a one-off incident, but it could lead to an accident, not of this aircraft, but maybe a trailing aircraft. You would have heard of the Concorde accident. How did the Concorde accident happen? Because a 16-inch metallic strip, fell off from an aircraft which took off before Concorde. So that was on the runway. And when an accident has to happen, all the holes align basically. Every error aligns and then an accident happens. So Concorde ran over that small strip, 16-inch strip, the tire burst, the pieces flew and burst the fuel tanks. There was a fire, the landing gear could not be retracted. So it snowballed into a big, major issue. Aviation is a high-risk industry, and we have what is called high reliability organizations in oil and gas and aviation, which are very high risk. There, even small errors cannot be ignored. They have certain principles like preoccupation with failure. So they cannot ignore these small failures. So if this is a sizable panel, what if another aircraft hit this panel and the tire burst? Something could have happened. In this particular aircraft, what if this panel flew off and hit the flight control surface or the rudder behind? And maybe 1 hour into the flight, there could have been a metal fatigue. So we cannot ignore these small issues, saying that it was the first time we have heard or it is a one-off thing and we can ignore it. In the larger scheme of things, every error has to be counted for and ensure that the safety culture prevails, that people who are responsible for safety, not just the safety department, but every person who's working there, either on job or off job, any person who is looking at it should also point out towards safety. Another big case was the Aloha Boeing 737, wherein the whole roof flew off because of poor maintenance practices. There was corrosion, there were cracks, the passengers could see the cracks. But Aloha Airlines, because of certain reasons of poor culture, maintenance culture, and profiteering, they ignored those cracks. And one day it happened. Another big incident was the British Airways, wherein the pilot side, the windshield flew off midair and the pilot was sucked out. Luckily, he survived with broken rib cage, frostbites, and shock. But what was its cause due? Overnight maintenance, the windshield was fixed, but the bolts were 0.5 mm shorter than usual. So aviation is a very high risk industry and high precision is required. So such errors cannot be ignored that it was one-off incident.
All right, Captain. Thank you very much for joining us and helping us understand what could have really led to this. Of course, we'll wait for the investigation now to get over in this particular matter. Thank you for the moment for joining us. Let's now move on, and there's some breaking update.